Hi, everybody. I'm Olivia F. Scott, the creator of Freedom at the Mat, a safe and sacred place for women to find their peace, find their freedom, and improve their health and wellness. We are proud to offer expert conversations with helpful information, movement sessions, and a community of like-minded women. So if this content speaks to you, subscribe, like, and share these videos. Today, we're going to talk with a woman that I just have a love affair with. I met her a couple of years ago, and she's such a fountain of knowledge. And she's also somebody who's really passionate about a topic that's very personal for me as well. Candice Sorapuru, licensed clinical social worker, is the co-founder of Innovative Approaches Counseling Center here in New Orleans, where we're going to talk about addiction and why it's not so easy to stop. Listen in. You're so Hi, I'm Olivia F. Scott, the creator of Freedom at the Mat, and today we're going to have a really insightful conversation about addiction and why it's not so easy to stop. Our guest, Candice Sorapuru, holds a Master's of Social Work from Tulane University, is a Louisiana licensed clinical social worker, and a board-approved clinical supervisor. With a strong belief in a client-centered approach to therapy while using cognitive, behavioral, and mindful techniques, Candice is a certified Triple P positive parenting program provider with over 20 years of experience. She has real experience in the fields of mental health, substance abuse, criminal justice, sexual abuse, domestic violence, geriatrics, and overall case management. Candice is for sure dedicated to improving the lives of people in her community. I know this for a fact. Her extensive experience spans criminal justice, post-incarceration settings, schools, hospitals, nonprofits, and community health centers, showcasing her commitment to making a positive impact, especially here in New Orleans. Candice is a lifelong resident of Louisiana and a proud New Orleanian, just like me now that I'm here. She brings both personal and professional dedication to her work. Let us please welcome the one and only, one of my favorite LCSWs, Candice Sorapuru, to discuss from a clinical perspective why substance abuse is simply not so easy to stop. Candice, welcome.
Thank you so much for that introduction. I really appreciate your kind words. Thank you. I'm excited to be
You're
here.
welcome. You're welcome. You are the truth, as they say. You are definitely the truth. I'm so happy and honored to know you and to have met you. So, Candice, you know, we've already had a conversation before. Substance abuse is something that's really often maligned. People think so poorly of people who are abusers of drugs. But I know from a very personal place with a sister who struggled for over 35 years and lost her life to it in part. I understand that substance abuse is not so easy to stop, right? If it were, then people would just stop, right? I'm over it. So my first question I have for you, just to qualify, not that I need you to qualify, but for those who are listening in today, can you share how long you have worked with people with substance abuse disorders?
And so, one of the things you kind of started off by saying it's like maligned, and we tend to put people in silos. But as long as I've been a social worker, I have worked with people with substance use disorder because it is part of the human experience. And so, I've been a social worker for over 20 years, and I've worked with people who have substance abuse disorder for over 20 years. Specifically focusing on it or concentrating on it has been for the last 10 years due to my work with the criminal justice system, because that is how we treat substance abuse in America, is by criminalizing it.
Mm. Why have you chosen to really laser focus on substance abuse disorders and those humans who are suffering from the condition?
So there's multiple reasons. One of the main things is personal. I have family members. Addiction runs very heavy in my family. It's something I've known since my youth. That you know, we are not a family who can dabble in substances as some families can. If you are going to try it, it's a very heavy or high likelihood you might be addicted just based on genetics. The other
Mm.
reason is because of my dedication to my community. And when I say my community, I mean New Orleans. New Orleans has a very, one, because we're a port city, it's probably a reason, but there are probably multiple reasons that we have a lot of substances that come into New Orleans. And in order to help my community, I have to focus on substance abuse.
You know, Candice, I want to pause there for a second. I have only been here for a few years, and I'm probably going to sound really ignorant when I say this, but I never thought about the fact that New Orleans, being a port city, subjected us to a higher degree of potentiality of having substance disorders because of the port city. Is that where you're going with that?
Yes, well, because substances have to enter into the country. And again, this is not research, this is just a hypothetical.
Of
I always
course.
try to figure things out. Why do we have such a large amount of substances that, come into New Orleans? And I kind of hypothesize it could be because of the port city. It's probably the reason we have a lot of other things trafficked through New Orleans because of the fact that it's easy access to the world.
Yeah, I think about that. I was in New York for a long time. And I mean, we had a lot of stuff going on up there, and it's probably the same thing being in Port City. So, okay, thank you for just, I paused when you said that. I was like, let me just go there for a second. But going back to our questions. So, what's the origin of substance abuse for most people that you have encountered who suffer from substance abuse? And I'm going to answer why I'm even asking that question before you answer, because I really want to hear it from you, the expert. But I know, and this is for anybody who is either suffering from any type of trauma and any type of abuse, there's usually a catalyst, something that got them started. And I remember, Lady Candice, when after about 20 years of what I thought was my sister's foolishness, I said, "Girl, what is wrong with you? What happened to you? Why are you like this? We had the same mama, same daddy." I was really like, "Girl, you need to get it together." And she shared with me two things that had happened in her life experience that did not happen in mine, even in the same household. So, what's the origin of substance abuse that you find for most people?
And so, in your sharing your personal story, you make some very important points. Even if you have the same biological parents, you never have the same parents. Parents change and grow. So, at whatever point you enter into a family, those parents change. So, sometimes, especially depending on birth order, you'll think the experience you had with your parents are similar to the experience your siblings had. And that is not necessarily true. But
Hmm.
substance abuse is so nuanced. One, it is simple as access, right? So you have to have access. Someone has to introduce you, broker you in to substance abuse. Um, that's first and foremost. And then there's genetic components to it. And you don't necessarily know. I call it the gene, and it's not one specific gene, but you don't necessarily know if you have it until you experiment. And then you find out that you have that predisposition. Lots of families don't talk about it openly. As I said, my family did. We didn't shelter, people from the fact that substance abuse was in the family. So it was known to me that substance abuse was a part of my genetic makeup. But some families don't do that. And so there's the genetic portions of it. And then there's also the way our brains are designed and to seek reward that the substances provide. And so there's so many reasons. And then, like we've talked about trauma. So some people are trying to self medicate. Sometimes it's a mental health issue that people are trying to self medicate from. There's so many reasons, and each person is individualized as far as why and how they got to the point that they are in.
From your professional experience, would you find that most people who are suffering from substance abuse disorders, that there might have been one particular trauma that might have happened, like an incest, a rape, abuse, domestic violence, or anything like that? Or is it like 50%? And I don't want to get you into numbers, but some of them, it's more. Go ahead.
Unfortunately, and so I work with a specific population. So I work with the population of people who are substance abusers, who have experienced the criminal justice system, who also have trauma. So in my experience, yes, there is not generally one specific event. Generally, it's a complex level of trauma. Most of them have either been born into trauma or had trauma at an early age. And then it kind of, the foundation of their life has been trauma. So there's multiple trauma stories. There are instances though where people have one specific trauma. I don't know if that's more common. In my population that I'm seeing, it's not as common to have one trauma. Because generally, if that was the case and you went back, you had a traumatic event and then you went back to a normal, healthy life, you probably would have other ways to cope or had built other coping skills. So not in my experience.
Okay. So, what are some helpful recovery practices that those who are seeking to minimize their addictive behaviors can adopt?
So it's going to sound cliche, and anybody who has experienced substance use have heard change people, places, and things. It's the easiest, hardest thing you will ever do. But if you keep doing the same thing you've always done, you're going to keep doing the same things you've always done. So you have to change things. There's a culture to substances that you have to remove yourself from. You have to, I call it, find the squares. So you have to find people who are maybe not like you and deal with that uncomfortable, kind of lean into being uncomfortable in those spaces where substances are not or considered maybe taboo, so that you don't have the triggers on the daily basis. It's a very complex answer though. So I'm trying to oversimplify it, but it is so complex because there's so much into substances, and we're kind of talking about them as one substance. Each substance is different. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay. So why isn't it so easy to stop to that point, right? No matter if it is, and I can imagine, right? If it is crack, if it is cocaine, if it is nicotine, if it is vodka, to your point, those are all very, very different things. And I also want to pause because I was talking with somebody, we were saying like many of us are addicted to things, right? Not all of them are actually harmful for our health, but the whole concept of addiction, there's such a negative connotation around it, but there are many of us who are addicted to things. I know many things that I'm addicted to myself. But going back to the question, Candice, why is it not easier for us to stop our addictions, our harmful addictions?
you make a very great point to say that lots of us are addicted. So I will, kind of speak up about my caffeine addiction. If I don't drink coffee on a daily basis, I have negative side effects. I have headaches. I have, like loss of focus. Enough that I will get coffee to avoid those negative side effects. So lots of
Mm.
substances have negative side effects as part of the withdrawal process. And coffee is a small, when we talk about it as an addiction, it's one that's legal and it's socially acceptable. And so I don't have to quit. But if I had to quit, I would have to deal with those negative side effects. And I don't want to deal with those. That's the same for those illegal substances. The negative side effects are, multiplied and much worse. So dope sick is not the same thing as being, caffeine withdrawal. It's time a million. And if I don't want to deal with caffeine withdrawal, I can definitely understand why you would want to deal with being dope sick. Some substances become part of your system in a way that if you stop suddenly it could cause death, such as alcohol. So
Mm.
alcohol, you have to have a system in place, a medical detox, or a weaning off of alcohol, which makes it even harder to stop. So it's like that's not the same as maybe marijuana, which they also it all has physical effects, and then there's the mental effects. So if you're actively addicted to any substance, it's constantly in your thoughts. And it builds up a tension that the only way to release that tension is to use. And that's very difficult to deal with that tension. So it's not easy. Your brain is wired to keep you addicted. And even when you stop the substance, your brain still continues the wiring to keep you addicted. So
Thank you, Candice. And I want to offer another just comment. I was speaking with a woman about rituals recently. And we were talking about, from a self care perspective, that rituals and routines can actually be self soothing for you. Like just knowing that you can go for a walk every morning and that that's a part of your routine, or that you go for a walk to get your coffee or whatever it is. There's a self-soothing with routines. We just want to, so I think that's a human thing. I think we just want to help those who the routines that they have adopted that are self-soothing, that are harmful, help them replace them with other things that are more healthy for them. And so, my other question for you is about the mental health. So, I know for a fact that there were times when I would speak with my sister, and I'm like, yeah, that's, I don't, I think that she's not thinking straight, right? And there was this whole knowledge, or a notion at the time, rather, I should say, that there was a retardation of her brain from the time at which she began using drugs. So, my first question for you, I really would like to know, is that true? Is there a mental retardation that happens when you begin using like harder things like heroin, crack, maybe even harsh alcohol, not wine and wine coolers? But is there a mental retardation that happens when you begin using drugs?
So I would change the word and say that there is a brain rewiring, right? And so the synapses don't work the same. So I wouldn't use that necessarily the word mental retardation, but I would say that your brain makeup changes and the way that you process information is going to change because the drugs are going to be acting on some of those receptors so that the information may not be able to access those receptors. So, yes, I think what you're saying is you notice a change in the way she cognitively was showing up, and that's going to be common, you know. So, if you're taking a depressant, it's going to make you slower. If you're taking something that maybe is a stimulant, it might make you faster, right? You might start speaking at a faster pace or processing information really quickly and becoming impulsive. The drugs are going to act on your brain. So that's the first place the drug is acting that you're going to notice a difference.
Cool. So, final couple of questions for you, Candice. This is what you do for a living, and you do it so passionately and so well. What advice would you offer to those people who are suffering with any types of addictions that are harmful to their health, that they want to minimize moving forward to live a fuller, more present life without those drugs in their lives?
So the hardest part about when we talk about the word suffering is that some of the suffering is not substance induced, right? Some of it is because of laws or the world. And so one of the
Mhm.
first things is to not take, like to not get in that self blame, self pity place, because it's really harder to move forward, to find community, to find people who understand so that you can be your authentic self and express your true thoughts and feelings. The reality is, people would not use substances if they were all harmful, right? They have some positive effects and they need to have a space where they can talk about the reasons that they keep using for the positive reasons. And then also we can talk about the negative reasons and why they should stop. But if we only constantly talk about the negative parts of it, then that person feels isolated and they're gonna withdraw. So trying to find a space where you feel like you can really talk honestly and openly about everything that you're experiencing, and then to try to make that decision to get to the place that is healthier, right? Which would be substance free, because substances, with when I say they have positive effects, meaning they do numb the pain, which is what most
Mm,
people are looking for, right?
right,
So you need to
right.
be able to be honest with somebody and say, yes, I use this to numb the pain. Then we can have a real conversation about what else could you do to numb the pain. But if we all just, why are you doing this? And it's all unhelpful, then you're going to withdraw and continue to use in secrecy. So being open, being honest, finding love and being able to receive it and knowing you're worthy is really also important. The drugs do not make you less worthy of love and of acceptance, right? And we're all looking for that. So um, finding that space and that community typically is in substance abuse treatment. So that's what would be my first step, is to don't try to white knuckle it and do it by yourself. Find somebody who wants to help, and they're out there, right? There's lots of communities, and keep going until you find the one that feels like it's your people.
You know, it's interesting you share that, Candice, because I will share one final personal anecdote. I mean, I was on a 35, 40-year journey with my sister on that. So it's like I have so many stories. But when you just said the knowing you're worthy, I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you before or not, but we finally got my sister situated where she was living independently because there was a lot of codependence in her life. And somebody had donated her all this furniture. And she was just so happy that somebody was donating this furniture. And she said, I guess I'm not that bad after all. And I said, oh my God, of course you're not. But she, to your point, probably was carrying a significant amount of shame and isolation where she didn't believe that she was worthy of someone gifting her a living room worth of furniture. It was a couch and a table. And she was like, I actually, and I was like, wow. It came out so naturally. So thank you for saying that. I think there is so much, we malign this population of people in such a way that we forget that they're actually human. And it definitely bothers me. Right. So the final question I have for you, the final two to that point actually, is what advice would you offer family members and friends, loved ones of those who are working with people who just have it bad? What would you offer to us?
And so I know we talked about this before, but just showing up in love. So if you do everything from love, the person can receive the love. And now I know we had this, mentality of tough love for a while, and tough love did not feel loving, cutting people off, not, I'm not saying to, enable them. There's a line, and it's not too thin to between loving and enabling, right? You can clearly see the difference, but continue to love them, continue to love them through this. And if you can connect to that part of yourself where you're doing something, because we've all done something that's less than the best for ourselves, and we made justifications, and that helps us to give empathy, because you can understand, like I said, I can definitely understand why a person would not want to feel bad by giving up a substance, physically feel bad, because I've not had coffee and had that, not even in the same level, right? So I can but if I can understand that's a million times worse than my experience of skipping my morning cup of coffee, wow, I can see why you do some of the things you're doing. And that level of understanding allows you to become open. And that's the only way we're going to be able to connect. And that connection is going to keep you grounded and help so much more than you can ever imagine.
Wonderful. And so, Candice, I know that you work with a specific population of people, but do you have a website or an Instagram or any place where people can find out more information from you about substance abuse or get any resources from you? And are you even open for private clients to come and support you?
So yes, like three multiple questions. So yes, Instagram, you can follow me at therapygys. I have a podcast that is on hiatus right now, Therapy Get You Some, while I am finishing my doctorate in social work. So maybe, following, you'll see some uploads. Website, www.innovativeapproaches.info. And until I finish this pesky dissertation, I am not going to be able to see any clients for class of 2025. So soon.
Well, congratulations. And this piece of content is going to live on and on and on, Candice. So, when they come and look at this in 2025, they can come back to the website, they can check out Therapy Get You Some, and they'll support you at that time. Congratulations on the doctorate, though. That's huge.
Oh, thank you.
Of course. All right, sister. Anything else you want to share with the population of people watching that I did not address?
So just that you are loved, and we're going to always lead with love. So if you're experiencing addiction, just know that we love you. And if you love someone with addiction, just make sure that you give them that love. So that's it. Just lead with love.
Thank you so much for making the time. You know how much I feel about this particular topic. So I appreciate you making the time, especially while studying for your doctorate. And for those of you watching this particular episode, we hope that you do, as Candice said, that you love yourself, you love on those around you. This is a very difficult topic and a very complex topic, but we feel that together as a community, we can find a path forward. May God be with you all. Ashe. You're so